everyone. I hope you're all doing well. And today we have Kṣaṇāti with us, and we're going to be discussing, as promised, Ketu in Vishaka Nakshatra and how is it going to affect each ascendant. So we'll be covering from Aries to Libra today, and then we'll do another part from Scorpio to Pisces.
So we're going to do Aries to Virgo today and then Libra to Pisces.
Okay, we'll do. Okay, great. Aries to Virgo. So welcome, Kṣaṇāti. Namaste.
Namaste, Navjeet. It's so good to be here with you, sharing this divine wisdom of Jyotish with our astrological community. Ketu in Vishaka Nakshatra is very profound transit. In our initial elaboration on it, we discussed some of the general effects. And now in our next two collaborations together, we're going to get much more specific and talk about how it's going to be activating for each ascendant. So I would just like to start today with the chant to Ketu. Palas puspa sankasham takara grahamastakam raudram raudratmikam goram tam ketu pranamamyam. Palas puspa sankasham takara grahamastakam raudram raudratmikam goram tam ketu pranamamyam. Om Palas puspa sankasham takara grahamastakam raudram raudratmikam goram tam ketu pranamamyam. Om Kram Krim Kraum Sahabamaya Namaha. Om Kram Krim Kraum Sahakitave Namaha. Om Kram Krim Kraum Sahakitave Namaha. Om Kram Krim Kraum Sahakitave Namaha. Hari Om Namah Shivaya Namaste. Yeah, whenever I do the Ketu mantra, I like using the Mars tantric seed sound and bringing the Mars energy into it because of that affinity that Ketu has for Mars and Mars has for Ketu. So I like bringing that Mangalaya energy with the Ketu mantra. So let me share my screen. And we shall start with the Aries Ascendant. So for the Aries Ascendant, to understand how this effect will be for Ketu and Vishaka, we have to understand that Vishaka Nakshatra, it falls both in the early degrees of Scorpio and in the later degrees of Libra. So there will be a dramatically different effect right now when it's in the early stages of Scorpio, before it goes retrogression into the later stages of Libra. So in the first earlier part of this transit for the Aries Ascendant, it's hitting the 8th house here. Now, when Ketu is on the Scorpio side of things, Scorpio having this Mars-related energy and Ketu being a Pitta planet, as it transits this 8th house with the Aries Ascendant, which is already connected with Mars, we have to address the fact that from a medical astrological perspective, you have to be very concerned over this period. Now, it's very interesting because, you know, in a lot of places around the world, it's kind of cold right now, but this is having to do with Pitta aggravation. Now, maybe it's not specifically in terms of temperature because maybe Ketu is affecting us more on a spiritual level. So in what areas of our spiritual progress right now are we becoming frustrated? Are we becoming annoyed? How are we losing our patience with our spiritual sadhana, with our spiritual practice right now? It's a very important time for the Aries Ascendant to apply more discipline in their spirituality, as well as Pitta pacification in their diet and their herbs and their general lifestyle to kind of cool down and smell the flowers, so to speak. Now, Ketu being the moksha planet activating the 8th house, which is a moksha bhava house, we have to also be concerned about, you know, the possibility of, you know, there's no easy way to say this, you know, losing someone close to us. You know,
Mhm.
K2 has this energy which it can bring this kind of divine transformation, and sometimes it's death, you know, and there's no pretty way to say it, you know, but this is a preparation if you do have some elderly members in your family right now to spend a lot of extra time with them, you know, give them that extra love and attention right now, because as K2 kind of enters its transit through Scorpio to the Libra side of of Vishaka, you could see some decline in maybe some elder members of your family's health. Now, when it goes into the 7th bhava, it's going to be activating that romantic partnership energy. And then Rahu's going to go into the ascendant. Now, a lot of people might see this and say, okay, I'm concerned, I'm nervous. Am I going to lose my romantic partner? You know, a lot of times I like to describe K2 as the giver of obstacles and omens. And Vishaka is a very innovative energy. So the real question that I have as this kind of K2 enters the Libra side of Vishaka is, what layers of improvement does your relationship need? How is your partner seeing you? How are you seeing your partner? You know, we talked about improving our spiritual habits with that 8th house position. As it gets to the 7th house, you're improving your habits, but is your partner improving their habits? Because how it works is, as two people are working on themselves, their frequencies get aligned. But what happens if one person is working on themselves while another person is not? Then those frequencies might not be compatible anymore. So it's not really a negative thing with this transit in terms of if you're in a relationship, it's going to be over. I know personally, I don't like to look at things fatalistically like this.
Mhm.
But I will say that it's a time for two people in a relationship to grow together. And if one person is growing and another person is not, I do believe that K2 will bring obstacles, because this is a real time of innovation, transformation, and change in your lifestyle. And Vishaka is that energy of like being selfless, being giving, being caring in its higher form. So it's really your ability to show up and care for another person that's highly evolutionary over this transit. So that's a little bit about Aries.
Mm. Thank you.
Now, Taurus, you know, for the Taurus ascendant, we have Rahu, which is, you know, right there in the primary ascending position right now. And Ketu's falling into that 7th bhava. Now, with Ketu on the Scorpio of Vishaka, it's very similarly to what we said earlier, right? Because we already talked about, well, Ketu and Vishaka in the 7th house for the Aries ascendant. So it really is this time of make or break. And what's interesting is this is just a little bit of a case study, but what you'll see as we go through this, we'll see this kind of sequential process, right? Because for the Aries ascendant, versus activating the 8th in Vishaka, then the 7th in Vishaka. Now for the Taurus ascendant, it's activating the 7th in Vishaka and the 6th. So we already talked about Vishaka with K2 in the 7th house. So we've already covered that. So you can understand that the second effects that we said for the Aries ascendant will be some of the effects for the Taurus ascendant here, right? Because whenever we have these Kṣaṇāti nakshatras, they're kind of flowing different effects in different names and areas of life. So it is a real make or break time for the relationship for the Taurus ascendant as well. Is this relationship serving you? If not, maybe it's time for it to go. But as Rahu goes to the 12th and Ketu goes to the 6th bhava, this is considered generally a pretty challenging transit whenever Ketu's in the 6th and Rahu's in the 12th, because again, Ketu has an affinity for the 12th house. Rahu has an affinity for the 6th house. So now that's switched. And so for Ketu entering the 6th bhava here, the energy of enemies shows up, right? And we have to be careful because Ketu can be somewhat hidden. and obscured. And so what are kind of hidden enemies in your life over the course of this transit? You know, what people in your life are not serving you? And it's possible because of the sixth house energy, they're coworkers too. So it's like, what people in your life that are challenging you, can you kind of overcome or conquer, right? And we'll see when we get into the Gemini that in the beginning part of this transit, it offers you an opportunity to conquer it because the ruler of the sixth in the sixth. But here it'll be in Libra. So it's more of a, I have to find balance. I can't let the stress of my job affect me negatively. I can't let these people that are challenging me affect negatively. I still have to be able to enjoy life. I still have to be able to enjoy nature. I still have to be able to enjoy the beauty that life has to offer. So this is important to understand as Ketu kind of for the Taurus ascendant kind of moves into that sixth bhava, right? And with the moksha energy entering the sixth house, there's also a question of what service can I do into my life? What gifts can I offer? Can I be offering seva over the course of this period? Um, and a lot of times we think of enlightenment as like, you know, this is part of that Rahu 12K26 kind of thing. We think of enlightenment as I need to meditate and I need to chant and I need to do yoga and I need to fast and all of these things. When really one of the greatest ways for us to spiritually evolve and to tap into our enlightenment potential is to be of service. Do you have a guru? Time to be in seva of the guru. Time to get outside of yourself and help someone else who's suffering more. Because again, if you look at Vishaka, it has the outsider caste, right? The butcher caste. The who is the people in this world that are not given attention to, that need that extra support. With Ketu and Vishaka in the sixth house, how can you be of support? Volunteer at a soup kitchen, give money to the homeless, help a drug addict or alcoholic or the elderly. It's a great opportunity to be in service. So for the Gemini ascendancy, rulership of Mercury, you know, we already talked about that Ketu in the sixth bhava, but now there's some kind of unique yoga going on because sometimes it's said that Scorpio is co-ruled by Ketu, or at least has some strength in Ketu. So now it's about, instead of just finding the balance with our relationship with our enemies, how can we conquer our enemies? How can we defeat our enemies? This is more warrior like, right? Kartikeya. This is more of that intense, fierce energy of, okay, this person is challenging in my life. I'm not going to just passively just sit there and let this person use and abuse me. No, I'm going to let that fierceness in my soul, that Rudra energy come out of the shadows, and I'm going to conquer my enemy so that they do not have the power to have a negative effect on me. So this is something I want to consider, which is not just giving up when it comes to someone challenging you, but fighting that battle and winning it is one thing that I want to say. Now, when Ketu goes in the Libra side of the Vishaka energy, this has to do with education as being one thing that's activated, and it's a Dharma house. Now, a lot of people around this time of the year, if you're thinking about college next year or maybe graduate school, you're wondering, okay, um, am I going to get accepted? What am I going to be planning? Because it's March right now. So when school and classes and things start in September, now's the time to start planning for it. So it's really, you know, there is this preparatory energy that's kind of planning for the future as that Ketu and Vishaka falls into the fifth bhava. It's something to understand. And while the seventh house that we talked about for Aries and Taurus energy is kind of activating that partnership, that Ketu in the fifth house has more to do with dating. So it's an energy with Ketu and Vishaka to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, start dating new people, start kind of exploring if you're single, and Ketu starts to enter that fifth bhava and Vishaka. You might be lonely and not date at all if you're looking for a specific type of person. But if you're open-minded and maybe someone outside of the religion you were born, someone outside of the race that you were born, you know, now is the time to kind of explore these newer territories with things that might not be so comfortable if you want to experience success in dating. And let's be honest, we're living in 2022. So let's not be so uptight about our labels when we're trying to find true love. Um, Now, another energy that I wanted to highlight about this energy is this is a creative house. And Ketu wants to bring change and transformation in your creative gifts or abilities over the course of this transit. So as Ketu is, making its way through the Libra side of Vishaka, is where does your creative expression come from? Are you an artist? Do you like to paint? It's time to start doing that. If you're a musician, it's time to pick up that instrument and start playing. And what you'll find is that as K2 starts to enter the Libra side of Vishaka, that's when spring is coming. You're going to see the beautiful spring, flowers, and the weather's going to get nicer. And what better time for romance than to be playing music and to be creating expressively your love for God? This fifth house is a Bhakti Yoga house. So this position of expressing your divine appreciation and love of God through music, through chanting, through creative exploits. It's a real opportunity to do some spring cleaning here and experience some gifts. I think it's a fun transit for Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the Cancer ascendancy, which is ruled by the moon, and we know that K2 has a malefic effect on the moon almost always. Now, so that doesn't mean that it's all going to be negative, but now with that K2 in the fifth house, it's going to be bringing more of it's more of the finishing of something that you've already been doing instead of starting something new, as you see these Kṣaṇāti Nakshatra. So you're going to be thinking, okay, maybe I need to finish my education. Maybe I need to start something new. Maybe I need to stop dating this person. Maybe I need to change. I just finished working on this song, or I've been stuck on this album that I'm making, or I've been stuck on this painting, and it's time to let that go or to finish it up and start something new. Now, what's interesting about the Libra part of this transit is that Ketu is going to be entering the fourth bhava. Now, when Ketu enters the fourth bhava, that's the natural house of the moon. It's the Cancer house. So this is a very difficult kind of transit that I want the Cancer ascendant to be educated about, because the fourth house is the house of the home, which is the physical home that you have, and also the geographic location that you're living in, which in this case, K2 is bringing obstacles, change, and transformation in that area. So along those lines, it's like, do you have a physical property that you're thinking about selling and you're trying to sell it? Well, as Ketu goes into this Libra side of it, it's really important to put all of your efforts into letting it go. Now, here's something I've noticed about Ketu in the fourth house. A lot of times when people are trying to, let's say, get rid of a car, get rid of a house, travel or whatever it might be, they're looking to do that because they know that's what they want to do, but they're looking to do it in the least expensive way possible. But K2 is the moksha karaka. It reduces our attachment to things. So if it's really what you want, to get a new home, to get a new car, to travel into a place, maybe it's not so much about how can I get the most money possible. Maybe it's more about how can I let go of my attachment to this thing spiritually to make room for something else that could be positive in my life. And there's a great saying that I think kind of denotes that, which is that one door closed and many doors open. So maybe with this energy, it's important to let some of our attachments go so we can travel, so we can see the world. And with this K2 in the fourth house energy, whether it's relocation to a new city or a new home, or possibly a new city, state, or country, you got to be willing to let go of things and maybe not get what you thought you were going to get for them, so that that can happen throughout this transit. Okay, so the Leo ascendant, which is ruled by Surya, again with Ketu and Sun, that's pretty unfavorable. Ketu and Rahu both have this somewhat malefic effect on the celestials, Surya and Chandra. So we have to understand that there's going to be somewhat of a challenging effect. Now, with K2 in the fourth house, this can actually bring somewhat of a chaotic experience or some kind of difficult experience in your comfort zone, right? So, like every single soul or human being has a comfort zone. We have places that we like to go. We have a home that we like to stay in. We have a town that we like to stay in. We have family members who we spend time with, friends. And K2 in the fourth house, especially on the Scorpio side of Vishaka, the end result of change in this area, just like we talked about for Cancer, is going to be favorable, but it could be difficult in order to get there, right? So this might show that there might be some kind of emotionally challenging or traumatic experience that kind of promotes you to say, I got to get out of here. I got to do something different. With the Cancer ascendant, we have to take more of a motivation because it's the longer transit in Libra. But now it's culminating on the Scorpio side of Vishaka for the Leo ascendant. So it's really about, okay, I need to get away from this toxic relationship. I need to get away from, a marriage that isn't helping me. My parents are taking advantage of me. My children are taking advantage of me. And I can't take it anymore. I need a change. And actually, the challenge of these obstacles with your family members and your inner emotional nature, because remember, the fourth house can represent our emotional state of being. That K2 in Vishaka on the Scorpio side energy, it wants to bring a change in your consciousness, but maybe you have to go through those difficult experiences that you go through even more to be able to make the necessary change, right? Sometimes suffering is the greatest catalyst, and this can show an emotional nature of the suffering in the earlier months of this transit. Now, as we're looking into the Libra side, when you go through this kind of trauma or this kind of difficult change, then it's going to activate, okay, well, I can't change those other people, but what can we do? We can change ourselves. And we're seeing this activation of the third house, which is upachaya, grows over time, self-improvement, self-evolutionary energy, right? So maybe we were in a toxic environment, a toxic relationship, our partners were drinking alcohol. And so when we were around our partners, you drank alcohol with them. But now your partner is still drinking alcohol, but you got out of that environment. So now in the third house, you're trying to be sober. This is an example of, okay, I got out of that negative environment, but I still have to lead by example to the people that I love, to the people that I care about. And one of the things that I like for the Leo ascendant here is the Upachaya third house energy represents some short-term travel, some vacations or some holidays. If you just went through some kind of difficult separation or traumatic experience in your life, please go on a vacation or holiday to somewhere beautiful to appreciate the spring, the beginning of spring as it's kind of starts to hit into this third house. And enjoy life a little bit, because that might be the reset button that you need to kind of get back to square one. Last but never least, because I would never say that the Virgo is anything less than perfect, let's do the Kanya ascendant, the Virgo ascendant. Now, again, here you might actually be finishing up some traveling, right? Because that Ketu in Vishaka is activating the third house. And actually, the third house on the Scorpio side, it kind of represents like this communication, this expressive skill. So it's like, have you been developing how you express yourself? Maybe you've learned a new language. Maybe it's time to finish that education of that new language. Or maybe you've already have been traveling if you're a Virgo ascendant. And because of traveling, because of education, because of whatever it's been causing some expenses, which is why when K2 goes into the Vishaka position on the Libra side, it's time to start making money. this activation of Ketu in the second house, it does want to encourage you to develop some financial security, some financial stability. And Vishaka inherently represents innovation. So think about your career, think about in your investments, and you've been doing things a certain way for a certain time. And now it's time to change it up, time to mix it up a little bit and maybe do something interesting that you haven't done before. Now, let's be real. Ketu is the Moksha Karaka entering the second house of wealth. So is it possible that you could actually lose money, with Ketu entering the second house? Sure. That's if you don't get in touch with the mature, innovative energies of Vishaka. If you're trying to just do things how you've always done them and not really explore new possibilities, sure, it could be a difficult financial period, but it also lends to you trying new things. Because remember, when Ketu enters here, Rahu will be entering the 8th bhava. When Rahu enters the 8th bhava, that's gambling and risk taking. And I never encourage anyone to gamble because I think it's a dirty habit. But that doesn't mean that you can't take some investment risk, right? That doesn't mean that you can't invest in a business, which could go either way. And, maybe something with the Ketu Rahu 2-8 aspects can cause that business to be quite successful. So I don't think you should be playing slots or blackjack or poker. But when it comes to taking some more speculative or risky investments, this is potential time for financial success for the Virgo ascendant. So I would consider some risk taking in that area. So again, I hope everyone enjoyed my elaboration on Aries to Virgo ascendant, and Navjeet and I will do Libra through Pisces in our next collaboration together. Thank you for this opportunity, Nav.
Thank you so much, Kṣaṇāti, for a great presentation on Ketu and Vishaka for most of the ascendants. And we'll be back with our Libra to Pisces part 2 soon. Thank you. I hope you guys all enjoyed it.